Alright, in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to replace your brake calipers, your brake pads, and your brake rotors on the 2009 Honda Accord. So let's begin by removing the wheel. And now you want to get rid of these two Phillips screws on the brake rotor. And now what you want to go and start doing is taking off the 12mm sockets that hold on the slider pin bolts. And after that, the caliper should come off with a little bit of wiggling. Try not to hurt yourself while doing it. And now, what you're going to want to do is remove the two metal shims holding the brake pads in place. And after that, remove both of the brake pads. And be careful because they might be tight and held in place. And so now what you're going to want to do is get a 17mm socket or a 17mm open wrench and take out these two bolts holding the caliper bracket. And be careful because sometimes these bolts are very tight and they require a little bit more pressure to remove them. And so now on the brake caliper itself, you're going to want to use a 12mm socket to remove the e-brake cable bracket, which holds the e-brake cable in place. And then right after that, you're going to want to wiggle off the e-brake cable. It's going to take a little while, but it comes off with fair ease. And so now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a 14mm socket and loosen the brake line bolt, and have a catch pan ready to catch the brake fluid because it will flow from the line after you completely loosen the that bolt. And so now the caliper is free. You can see it from all angles and it's not connected to any part of the system anymore. And so now, as you can see, this is the old bolt from that brake line versus the new bolt. And usually if you get a new caliper, it comes with a new bolt as well. So now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put these two rings on there. It's going to be two copper rings. One is going to go on the inside of the bolt and the other one is going to go on the outside of the bolt. Now what you're going to want to do is put the copper ring first, put the brake line, and then put the copper bolt on the other side, because those bolts are going to serve as a gasket. And so now tighten it down about a little past snug, and it should be good to go. And make sure that also that little black piece goes into a hole next to the bolt hole. And then wipe it off after you're finished. Wipe off any of the excess brake fluid, and we're done with that part. So now what you're going to want to do is attach the e-brake cable to the caliper on the yoke where the e-brake is supposed to go, and then use the bracket and the bolt and screw them back to the mounting plate like it was before. And always remember to attach the e-brake cable before screwing it back on. And after you're done with those two, you might want to bleed your brake caliper line of the old fluid after installing, because there may have bubbles in the system. And after you're done with that, this little black cap, you're going to put it over it. And usually bleeding the brakes is going to be a two-person job, so make sure you're prepared before you begin. And after you finish that, you're going to want to take a 10mm socket to tighten it back again. And so now what you're going to want to do is reverse all of the previous steps that we did before to backwards to reinstall all of these parts. And so now what you're going to want to do is take those two caliper bracket bolts and reinstall them to fit on the new caliper bracket one at a time. And when you're tightening them, tighten them just a little past snug, because once they go onto this new one, the threads are fairly dry, so they're not gonna really have too many issues going on. So now that that's on, let's snug it down. And more than likely, just take your time. Don't rush too much with this process, and another thing, make sure that you're using gloves or another means to protect your hands, because sometimes these ratchets and their sockets can slip off the bolts. So just use caution when you're doing this. And after that, if it has any residual brake fluid on there, you want to wipe it off and make sure that nothing gets on any of your surrounding parts. So now, as you can see, these are the new shims. We're gonna attach these to the bracket, and right afterwards we're gonna come in there and just make sure that they're nice and that they're attached to each side of the bracket firmly. And now these are new pads. I'm gonna come in with the pads, and we're gonna put the ones that match on the right side on the right side. And now we're gonna put the ones that match on the left side with that thing on the other, with that little piece, that metal flange on the left side. And so, you know, when you do this on the other side, you're gonna repeat it. It's the same thing. It's not anything different. And always remember, before you put on the brake rotor, before you put on the bracket, the brake rotor has to go on. And then, you know, so right after you put on them brake pads, the caliper is gonna follow right behind it. And usually the new caliper should, the piston should be flush, so it can slide right on. You won't have to use a spreader to slide the piston backwards. And so now what you're gonna want to do is put those slider pins back in, and tighten those 12mm bolts down so they're nice and secure. And try to use a pliers to hold down the nut so that it doesn't slip. And now I'm just checking for fitment, make sure that everything fits firmly in place and that nothing move, and give it a final wipe down, and you are finished. So this is what it looks like when it's finished, and the finished product is what you're looking for. Nice clean fitment. Anything's loose, check it again, make sure that everything is in place and that everything is nice and tight. So, you know, that's how you replace your calipers, your rotors, and your pads on a 2008 to 2012 Honda Accord. Now, pretty soon I'm going to be doing the front, because now they're starting to make noise as well. But otherwise, you know, this is stuff that you do, just take your time. And now we can get this thing, we're going to put the wheels back on, tighten the lug nuts, and get this car back on the ground. So thank you guys for watching. And you know, I still need to get that one little more lug nut back on, but if you guys have any concerns, like, share, and subscribe. And I got the video for the front calipers and rotors and pads coming soon. So, you know, without further ado, I'll see you guys on the other side. Happy car keeping, I guess.